with Ann Webb. And I'm so happy that you're here tonight. We have a very exciting guest. His name is John McWilliams. He is a domestic military police dog trainer, and he's also training diabetic. A lot of topics tonight. John's a fascinating storyteller. I know because he's helped me with my dog Kane, and I'm sure that you're going to want to hear what he has to say. But really important, let other people know that we're on, and do that in any way that you'd like to do. John, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, John, you started out a long time ago with military dog training. I was wondering if you could tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It's going on 38 years, 37 years right now. In a couple of months, it'll be, oh my gosh, 38. That's amazing. I was in the Air Force, lucky enough to be invited, actually dragged in, kicking and screaming, into a program called Green Dog. And it was brand new that they were taking dog handlers out of dog school and making them into dog trainers. And I was lucky enough, blessed enough to actually be dragged into it. I didn't want the job. I wanted to go to Germany. I was going to be a dog handler in Germany. And thank goodness, because everything I have right now is based on Green Dog. Everything. Business,
Wow.
Career, my wife. I mean, everything. Yeah.
So you actually didn't join the military initially. You were in learning how to train dogs, then the military recruited you?
No, I'm sorry.
Am I getting that right?
I joined the Air Force to be a policeman, to be a security policeman, and they looked for two members to become dog handlers. I raised my hand, and I was one of the two. And then in dog school, they somehow invented this program called Green Dog, and somehow they thought that I volunteered for it, and I had to go up in front of the board. I had to go up in front of everyone in the squadron, the commanders and all the sergeants, and I didn't want to do it. I had orders to Germany. I was going to go to Germany. I was going to stay in Europe for a couple of years, and or at least I thought I was.
Okay.
And then they took me in, and I got accepted, and was one of the first 18, and 18 members, and now it's huge. It's oh my gosh, dozens and dozens and dozens of dog trainers training for the entire military.
What do the dogs do, and what are you training the trainers to do with the dogs?
It was called Patrol Dog, and trained to seek and find people. And so someone hiding in a building, someone hiding in the bushes, someone trying to jump the perimeter. They were actually trained for that. And then they were cross-trained into either drugs or bombs, to look for drugs if you work in the base, or bombs if it was needed. So the dogs back in the 80s, the military were trained to seek, find, actually protect. And then, of course, if anyone wanted to attack the handler, they were trained to go and protect the handler. Yeah.
Okay. So you were actually training people, and what was that experience like? You probably have a lot of stories from interesting experiences.
Oh, it was
from doing that kind of work.
It was neat. It was neat. Back in the military days, I was just a dog trainer. I wasn't training people. They were training me to train the dog, and afterwards in police work, in civilian police work, I started training people. But back in the military days, it was just the dog. I had 6 dogs at a time, and it was a blast. It was neat. It was a lot of fun.
So did you also pick the dogs that you would be training?
Back in the military days, no, they had an entire section. I mean, an entire section. It was called the Det. That they would select the dogs, and they would screen the dogs for us, and then give it to Green Dog. It was the same squadron, it was the same entity, but there was a different section, and they would pre-screen the dog, and then we train it. And some of the dogs failed out even there because not every dog is capable of doing everything. And so we were actually assigned dogs back in the military days. In police work, we would go over and pick the dogs. We would pick them, but it was
Okay. And I'm sorry to the people who are watching. There's a little bit of a bad connection. I know I don't think we can do much about it, unfortunately. Maybe just John, if you talk as loud as you can when.
right.
um, what did you find did make a good dog for being a military detection dog? What kind of qualities and what breeds did you find? I'm assuming German Shepherd. I'm just curious, what kind of qualities did dogs have that made it that were successful in doing military canine work?
The best dogs for any type of that kind of work are everything you don't want in a pet. You want high prey. You want crazy. You want forward. You want fearlessness. You want everything you don't want in a pet. You want this dog to go from 0 to 100 in a second, and that's a working dog. That's a police working dog. One that'll just hunt and search for hours and not care about anything else. Whereas with the pet, the ideal pet is the one that'll play with you and then lay down in your lap. You're not going to get that too many times with a working dog. A lot of times.
Okay. So these were mostly German Shepherds, or what was the breed that you tended to work with?
It was shepherds at the beginning. It was shepherds and mixed breeds, and then toward the end, it was Belgian Malinois, and that's what you see right now. You see the orange shepherds with the black faces.
Mm-hmm.
Was what Belgian Malinois, and they came to our program in the last year that I was there, in '84, and they changed everything. They changed the entire process, because they're actually designed to be amazing workers.
I think it would be interesting to hear a little bit about the relationship that you had with the dogs.
Yeah, yeah. The bond is the first thing you want. Without a bond, it's nothing's going to be good. And so the first thing you do is you build that bond with the dog. Back in the early days, back in the early '80s, weeks spent on to do. You took them for a walk, you brushed them, you played with them, you just hung with them, and then you started training them after a week. Once they got the mountain wise, you kind of changed that a lot. But in the military, at the beginning days, there was an entire week spent just hanging, just being with that animal, and
Mm-hmm.
just being his friend to make him work, to make him appreciate your praise. And then in police work, that was amazingly important and amazing. The dog lived with us, and so now you would sleep in bed with them, you lay on the couch with them, you watch TV. So now he would work harder for you when he didn't want. The bond is everything. In pet world, the bond is everything. You get the dog loving you, the dog will appreciate actually doing what it doesn't want to do for you. Whereas if there's no bond, it's just a piece of metal, kind of thinking, and so the bond is amazingly important, and that's what we really focused on, you know, making friends with that dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, so now, days, are they still using the same breeds that at that time they were using? You said that they're using the Belgian Malinois now. Um, Curious, it seems like I've seen other ones, but I've even heard pit bulls are being used, or is that a different
Yeah.
area?
You can use any dog for any purpose that it can do. And so there's plenty of labs out there doing bombs. A lot of times you actually want the lab to do bomb work because it makes people relax a little bit. You go into a bomb threat, the people are all upset. You see a lab, and people kind of get a little less nervous. You want labs working airports. You want the beagles working the airports because people are going to be a little nervous of seeing this, so-called attack dog walking toward them. But any dog that can do something can be trained to do it. But that's where you have to figure it out. So pit bulls, oh my gosh, pit bulls can be as good a working dog as the Malinois, the Shepherd. He can be just as good as the Mal if it's in his capability. Whereas Beagles, Cairn Terriers, those are really great detection dogs because they have that drive. But it is all of the dog. It really isn't the breed, but right now people are using Belgian Malinois because it's almost a guarantee. Kind of win a race, guaranteed. Whereas if you get a good Chevy, it'll win the race, and that's how dogs, or at least that's how I look at the dog world.
Out of curiosity, because there's some people in this show who came to it because they're familiar with animal communication. Did you find that you had a level of animal communication? I know you said there's a very strong bond, but I'm just curious if when we refer to animal communication, we're talking almost about like having that sense of each other where you don't even have to like speak, and it's not necessarily a training thing, but you're just so bonded and close that you kind of know what the animal's going to do, or he knows what you want him to do before even having to ask. So I'm curious if that came up at all.
You do get that kind of bond that you're a team. It's called the dog team. And so every canine officer with his or her dog is called the dog team, and the team dynamics. And so every now and then you go to a scene, and the dog would just look at you like, not now, Poppy, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm going to work harder. And there were other days that I was down, I was tired, I was down, I had things on my mind, and the dog would pick up on it. So just by that bond, you're going to get that kind of back and forth, that you kind of know what's going on with your dog, that he's off, without being indiscreet, even his poop, he pooped in front of you, like there's something going on there, what's going on with my dog? Is he under stress? Am I working too hard? I'm back in civilian police. Every now and then, you had weekends that it was like almost every 2 hours you're being called out, and the dog would really show you that, yeah, no kidding, he's under stress. And that's where you had to spend extra time with them. And back in the days I was single, I would lay on the bed with them, and we listen to music, just relax.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but it was that give and take. And so just knowing your dog, you kind of picked up on it, and the dog would know you, and he'd pick up on you, or he or she would pick up on you. And so if I was down, they'd be a little more cuddly, a little happier, a little silly.
Mm-hmm.
If I was happy, they'd appreciate it.
Right. And are you able to have the dog stay with you after a person's no longer in the military actively? Do they get to have them come with them? I know there's
back in the 80s. Back in the 80s, when I was training dogs, the dogs lived in the kennels, and when I got done training them, they certified they'd go to the base. So I had them for X amount of weeks, X amount of months, and then they got transferred. So I was just the builder. But back in the days of police work, of actual civilian police work, the dog came with you, and he lived with you. And depending on the dog's age, if you got transferred and he was young enough, he went to another handler. But if he was old enough and his days were ending, you would be given the choice to buy the dog for $10. In those days, there was some kind of legal thing going on. I think right now in the military, I think that they're allowing the handlers to take the older dogs home with them, and if they can't, they're going to adopt them out to people. But back in the 80s, the dogs pretty much stayed in the kennels.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear that, when they do end up staying together. So I'm curious, did you have any interesting stories about dogs that, you just had some crazy experiences with dogs that you were handling?
It just
or people that you were training.
it, it just depends on the type of story you want to hear.
Oh,
Because after and I tend I tend to focus on outrage. I never really focus, the common. I focus on the difference, and I have fun with them. And back in dog school in the Air Force, my training dog, the dog that was with to become a handler, he hated me, and he just bit me, and oh my gosh, I mean, like every few days, I'd have another set of holes in my arm or my legs because of him. He was called the handler eater. He enjoyed biting the guy at the end of his leash.
mhm.
Um, or that was that's a good story. And or now
No,
in
yeah. And what was his name? Did you
Bandit,
name him?
it was Bandit. I'm not going to forget that dog.
What was his name? I think what?
Sure. I'm I'm
I'm so
I'm
sorry. There's a little bit of a delay, so I'm not catching you. Yeah.
I'll slow down. I'll slow down. He got carried away. Um, his name was Bandit, and he
Okay.
was he he was there to teach me how to handle a dog. So there were like eight of us, eight airmen
Mhm.
learning how to handle dogs. And from there, I went to Green Dog, but I had to become a handler first. And this dog just bit me on like the first day. I'm petting him and he bit me. And we were taught how to handle certain bites, and it just kept on happening over and over again for 6 weeks, to where they asked me not to go to the hospital anymore because it was ruining their safety record. I'm like, okay, I got plenty of penicillin. I got plenty of antibiotics from the last two bites. I don't need any more. Um, and that I think got me green dog because it didn't bother me. It was
Mhm.
it was part of the job. And there were plenty of times I'd just be petting him, brushing him, and he turned around and tried to hurt me. A dog. He's in school. He was trying to be trained out of it. No idea. And then later on, I got green dog, and when one of my instructors came to me and said, "You realize that you had a handler eater?" And I have no idea what that was. And he goes, "Well, that's a dog that just likes biting his own person, and that's why he was in school." I'm like, "What to me? Thank you." And
Right.
I think it got me green dog. But something like that, oh my gosh, the dog's biting you, the dog's biting you. How horrible! It wasn't. It was. I don't know. I don't know. It makes for a good story, you know. And
Right.
and then you go to the other side of things. That when I was just starting doing pet training in the mid '90s, I get tasked with training a lady who says on the phone, "I'm slightly handicapped, and I
Mhm.
have this young German Shepherd puppy I need help with." So I go to the house, slightly handicapped. She has no arm, and her husband had one
Mhm.
arm, and he was in the midst of dementia, and they had this puppy. Oh my goodness, she was joyful. She was easing, and years for a couple of years, I put a leash on my ankle. Had a shoemaker make a special leash for it, um, and we became friends. And I just stopped there every Friday just to be with her. And she was a joyful, gorgeous, fantastic human being. So now I started with the dog hurting me, and then I was dealing with a lady who um, never didn't smile. She had no
Wow.
arms,
Mhm.
and so lucky to have those kind of stories, and that's what I tend to focus on the outrageous. She was outrageous, and that's pretty neat. I'm
Mhm.
lucky. I'm
Yeah.
lucky to have those kind of things.
Yeah. I'm sure.
If this show was like 6 hours long, I tell you every story I had. You know,
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'd love to hear more. And people who are watching right now, if you are out there and you have specific questions, uh, please post them. If you're just interested in this topic and you want to know more, as we mentioned, um, John McWilliams has a long history of military, police, and also domestic dog training. He owned a positive experience in New Jersey for over 25 years and did additional private dog training before that, so it's been even longer than that. Um, so please, if you have any questions about his background and history, feel free to put that up here, and also let other people know we're on, because we don't want people to miss out who might be interested. I wonder if for other people the perception might be that that's a very obviously intense situation, and that if you have a dog and you're working with that dog in the military and you're taking them to, I don't know exactly what you call them, but different scenarios where there might be a threat to them, that's got to be very intense. But also it's opportunity to see some amazing things happen. And I'm just curious if you do have any memories that stand out. I mean, the dogs that you worked with or other people worked with doing some amazing work that just stands out in your memory.
Back in the military, it was all, I was a dog trainer. There's dog handlers and dog trainers. I trained the dog for the handler, and he got sent to another base. The dog got sent to another base, and the handler would pick him up, and the handler would work him or her, but mostly him. In police work, in civilian police work, I would train the dog and the handler at the same time, and a lot of them worked with us. And so I got to see the dog in action. And in civilian police work, the dog did a lot of tracking, a lot of building searches, an awful lot of drug work in those days, in the early 90s. And then we trained bomb dogs, arson dogs, cadaver dogs. And that was interesting, dealing with those different sets. But amazing work done by some amazing dogs. And back in the sheriff's office, my one of my dogs was a search and rescue dog, and he was just trained to find bodies. That's all he was trained. No, find a body. It didn't matter, living, dead, buried. It just didn't matter. He wound up being able to solve what they thought was a crime of a house that burnt, and some poor shut-in was found in the basement under all the rubble, and they were looking for her, and they were afraid of picking, and he found her. And they were able to go over and find that. And no kidding, the poor lady passed away during the fire. It wasn't anything evil. It wasn't. That was neat, And then finding this kid who was about 10 years old, and he got mad at his parents, and he took an arrow that his father used to do bow and arrow, used to hunt deer, and took an arrow and said, "I'm going to kill myself," and ran in the woods. And you found him. He was crying, but thank God we found him. Those were neat. I mean, that was outrageous. And then you have, every now and then, I would make a fool out of myself and fail miserably. But mostly the dogs. Wow, holy moly! There's that they were able to solve a crime. They were able to find somebody. I'm sorry.
So the people might make mistakes, but the dogs were always on point, even if the people were, sometimes human error, but the dogs were always pretty much on point.
The dog.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Was like 99%, 99.9% never wrong. I was wrong. I overthought.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a saying in a working dog world: trust your dog. And every now and then you had a bad day, and you would overthink it. And sometimes I would fail horribly, and to go back and just ponder and say, yeah, I missed that turn. I did this. I did that. But the dog was always right. He really was right. There was a saying back in the early '90s that today I woke up, 1,000 bad guys were running loose in Morris County. I went to bed, 1,001 were running loose, because I just didn't I didn't succeed. The dog was right, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and dogs are honest. They're not going to lie to you. And so if he wants to go that way, you better go that way. If he wants to look up, you better look up. He's not going to do it for no reason. There's a saying that no dog does anything for no reason. Everything they do is caused. And if you can trust that adage, the dog's never wrong, never wrong. It's always the handler.
And how long does it take to train a dog in the military or the police?
It actually depended on the dog. We had dogs in Green Dog that were with us for months and months, and we had some dogs back in Green Dog that were with us for 8 weeks. And then in civilian world, you kind of gave them around 12 to 16 weeks. That's what you gave them for any given thing you were doing, just to be sure. And at the end of 12 weeks, 10 weeks, you were looking at them, and they were either going to make it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time you got to 16 weeks, it was obvious that they were going to make it or they weren't going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
But you gave them about 10, 12 weeks to kind of figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking this dog to do something very, very exact, very pinpointed. That he might like the tennis ball. He might be very energetic, but he doesn't want to sniff. He doesn't want to put his nose in a corner. Well, as great a dog as he might be,
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to make a good drug dog or bomb dog because he doesn't want to put his nose in that corner. And you give him weeks, you give him a couple of months to kind of figure it out. And that at the end of those 10, 12, 14, 16 weeks, you turn and say, I get it. He's a nice dog. He's happy. He's going to make a really nice pet for somebody that wants energy. But he just isn't going to work. I mean, right now we have a dog living with us, Truvia. She was going to be a diabetic alert dog.
Mm-hmm.
She's fantastic. She's kind. And she's everything you want in a service dog. She's lazy. She won't wake up to save her own life. And so her job is to wake up in the middle of the night and save somebody. And she won't do it.
Right.
The lovely dog. And with her, we gave her a year. We gave her 12 months
Mm-hmm.
before we started, I don't think we can motivate her enough. She isn't cut out for it. We're trying to take this dog and trying to put them in this little tiny itsy bitsy hole. Mm-hmm. It's almost like taking a dart and trying to put it in a dartboard,
Mm-hmm.
the bullseye. Not only the bullseye, you're trying to put that dart in the hole that another dart made a year ago. I mean, very hard. Okay. That's why if you ever see a working dog or a service dog, you kind of understand that there were a bunch of dogs that didn't pass,
Mm-hmm.
dogs that didn't make it. Just like if you watch a football game, there's plenty of kids in college that didn't make the league. Same thing with the dog. And so we back in the old days, we give them months to figure it out. And at the end of it, you're like, oh, okay, it just isn't going to be. We had one dog over in civilian world, fantastic shepherd. I mean, beautiful shepherd. He just wasn't cut out to do patrol work. And we spent months doing it. Mm-hmm. And then we took him out and we made him just into a bomb dog. And he excelled.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
He just wasn't cut out to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and chase somebody. He just wasn't cut out for that. But he was cut out to go over and work in a nice, quiet environment. Because in a bomb search, it's usually pretty quiet. People don't want to be around. And that's where it took a while. It took months and months to figure it out with Bully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how do they choose which dogs they're going to begin training? Where do they get them from?
Well, nowadays the military, at least my understanding, is getting them all from Europe, Holland, up in northern Europe, maybe even Germany, and they're getting the Malinois.
Okay.
The breeders out there are focused on that crazy, 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 crazy temperament. That they're actually called maligators. Not Malawas, they're maligators. They just want to do something. They don't care what they're going to do. But they're bred for that, and
Mhm.
then they're somewhat screened and half trained, and then the military buys them. Where
Okay.
back in the '80s, we were getting dogs who bit the neighbor's kid, and the military would go around the country and buy dogs for like $200, $400.
Oh my
They would
God.
actually have like adoption events,
Wow.
and people would come over and say, "This dog just bit the neighbor's kid. I don't want him anymore."
Oh,
And they test them, and they bring them to us. And even then, we would have, I think it was like an 80% failure rate back in '82.
okay.
And then, in our civilian world, because everyone worries about money, especially especially in government, we would go around to certain shelters.
Mhm.
And we go all over the state. We even go into other states, and pick up a dog. We test them at the kennel, see if we saw something that we might like, um, for the need, bring them back and give them those 10, 16 weeks to figure it out. And if he didn't, then then we put the word out to anyone we knew. You have a really nice dog if you want. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
he has his obedience down, he has his controls down. He just can't work. But now even a lot of police agencies are buying the dogs. They're actually buying them. Um, you know, half trained, definitely screened. Very very seldom are a lot of these bigger police agencies just going over to a kennel. They're getting the kennel maybe for the bomb dog or the drug dog or something like that. But if it's the patrol dog, they're actually buying them.
And
And
what's the difference? Why would they choose to go to a specific place and get that dog for the patrol as opposed to like, why is it easier to get a shelter dog to do the bomb sniffing work?
a lot of times, a lot of times because of the need of he's always going to be working. He's always going to be on. He's going to have like an 8 hour shift. He's gonna he's gonna be in the back of the truck with the handler for the 8 hours, or nowadays it's even 12 hours now because a lot of them are working 12 hour shifts. So he has to be up. He has to be on. Whereas the drug dog, the bomb dog, a lot of times they're going to be hanging out. They're going to be have a lot of downtime, and so that's why
Okay.
you can kind of afford to go over and not get that craziness. You also don't want to be spending a lot of these smaller departments, or even the bigger departments, don't want to spend 16 weeks and then not succeed. That's just a waste of time and energy and money. What they're doing is they're buying dogs now. A lot of them are buying dogs simply to almost guarantee the success,
Mhm.
as opposed to testing the success. But if you already have two bomb dogs and you're looking at maybe next year, the year after, this one's going to retire, you have that time. You have that time. So a lot of times, why not go to a shelter? Why not?
Mhm.
But with patrol dog, you have this handler waiting for his dog or her dog. Um, and if you wait 16 weeks and another 16 weeks and another 16 weeks, no, it just doesn't happen. I
Mhm.
mean, it's my understanding that back in 1982, Green Dog was invented because handler and dog were going to school together, and one of them would pass, or two of them would pass, or none of them would pass. They were finding out that the handler would pass and the dog wouldn't, and be kicked back. So now you have a handler without a dog at some
Mhm.
base of the world. That dog's going through school again for another, whatever, 16, 18 weeks. Then at the end of it, that dog would fail again, and the handler would go to the base. Now you have two handlers without dogs. And when there were like 350, 360 handlers in the Air Force without dogs, that's when they said we have to do something.
Uh-huh.
And that, thinking that the first dog I had, Bandit, he failed a bunch of times because the last thing you need is your own dog biting you in a real life scene. And so that's where Green Dog was invented, because they found out that it was just over and over and over and over again. Some dogs just weren't passing. They were good enough to work, but they weren't good enough to pass. That makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
And that's when they went out and started buying dogs. And the Malinois changed everything. They just changed the entire operation. There was all work, and it was fun work,
Mm-hmm.
but they changed everything. It really did. And now a lot of police departments are going straight to the Malinois because they're designed to work, especially if you get them from certain breeders over in Europe, that they're actually almost guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
And so now after 16 weeks, you have that dog now is going to be out there helping out the world.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times you're going to spend 16 weeks and the dog just isn't quite qualified for it. And then another dog 16 weeks and 16. It just keeps going. And so a lot of police departments don't want to give up their patrol person for 32, 48 weeks. It's just too much. It's just too much. And that's why a lot of them are buying them.
Okay. And what is the job of a patrol dog?
Patrol dog, um, um, seek and find humans, anything with human scent, evidence, everything. Back in civilian world, we did a lot of tracking. We're out here in Morris County, a lot of residential areas. I mean, this is nice. This is nice. I was born and raised in the Bronx, and this is nice. A lot of greenery, and so houses would get burglarized. Something would happen. Someone would run away. The cops would stop a car, and the guy would run into the woods. The dog was trained to go tracking, man trail or even track. We did a lot of tracking. We didn't do a lot of man trailing. We were taught how to man trail by a Native American named Tom Jones. We go down to a seminar once a year, and he teaches the people how to man trail. So you're in the woods, you look for certain things, and there's certain ways you can find if someone was in the woods. And that helped us with our dog, because the dog was designed to track the person. If there's dead skin cells, there's a lot of stuff coming off the human body that it is impossible to stop. You're not stopping it. If you're breathing, you're giving out stuff. They just walk. There's dead skin cells called effluvia hitting the ground, and it actually breathes, and that's what the dog's trained for. Every now and then, if the guy circled around, did this or that, that's when man trailing came in. You look for certain signs and put the dog near it. If the dog picked it up, the dog would do the track. And we were pretty successful. Building searches. You have certain buildings that are dangerous, a lot of tools, just big. So when the cop goes in there looking for somebody, there's an alarm activation. The guy's hiding, and he knows where the cop is. The cop doesn't know where he is.
Mm-hmm.
That's very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And the cop with the radio, the keys, all the jingle jangle on him. He's going to give himself away, or she's going to give herself away. You put the dog in there, and within a minute, the dog just goes. He's almost like a laser beam. It's like, zzz. And even the guy's hiding, up on a shelf or in a closet. The dog's going to be able to pick up on it because of his heartbeat, the smell, the track that the guy did, just the adrenaline, being afraid. The dog's going to pick up on that, and so by the time the average person knows the dog's there, the dog's already found it. Whereas with the cop, the flashlight, the jingle jangles, the radio, and everything, dangerous. So the dogs work in searches, track, building search, evidence search, because sometimes you'd find somebody 2 or 3 blocks away from the crime scene, and they would claim it wasn't me, and you go over and you try to find a piece of evidence that had their fingerprints on it. They would train for human scent, and then you would cross train them into either drugs, just to get more value for the buck. But ideally, a patrol dog is designed to track, building search, designed to be somewhat of a deterrent. Actually, be a huge deterrent. Back in the old days, in a civilian world, if a neighborhood was getting beaten up with a lot of burglaries, they would just send a couple of units out, a couple of canine units, and we just drive up and down the street. Just drive up and down, let them know. Dogs are barking, the truck's shaking, and now the bad guys knew, oh my gosh, the dogs are out, and they would move to the next town and move to the next county. Um,
Okay.
we did a pretty major drug bust in this one town back in the '90s, and we would take over the entire town. 30, 40, 50 cops, 4 or 5 dog handlers. We take over the entire area, and you wind up arresting a bunch of people. And the next day, you realize that you lost your handcuffs because you gave it to somebody, and they'd arrest someone, and yet you were busy. So one time we did this huge raid, and the next day I went into that town to get my handcuffs back because everything has value, and the agencies don't like losing money.
Mhm.
And so I went there, having a cup of coffee, we're having a good time. I got my cups back, and a bunch of detectives come in, the town detectives, like, oh, that's why the bars are empty. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. They were looking at the places we busted, thinking that we were going to go back, and they were back, and they just emptied because they saw the canine unit going down the street. They had
Right.
no idea for my handcuffs and a cup of coffee. Um, and that's where the dogs are amazing to turn. Just their presence,
Yeah.
just their presence alone, usually settle things down. Usually, if there's 50 people that want something, and they're going to attack a cop or or something,
Mhm.
one dog can push them all back.
Wow.
Everyone there knows that it's impossible for that dog to bite 50 of them.
Hmm.
No one wants to be the one, and that's
Hmm.
why they back up. So a lot of deterrence.
Yeah.
No deterrence actually. So tracking, building search, deterrence, and there is a certain protection quality. The dogs are trained that if anyone hits the handler, that they'll take over. But it's cued. It's all cued, which is appropriate. The dog shouldn't be out there biting everyone in the world.
Mhm.
Um, and then cross trained. Yeah, yeah.
And did you so you have a lot of dogs? It sounds like. How many do you think you've been partnered with over the years?
Um, um, uh, I mean, professionally in the military, I had 6 dogs at any given time. I was there for 3 years. Um, everyone helped train everyone else's dog because you had a decoy, you had to help. Um, Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in Green Dog alone. Then in civilian world, oh my goodness, several dozen. And then in civilian world, doing pet training. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, oh my gosh, I'd go through 105 families a week in class alone,
Wow.
and that was every week, like for around 45, 48 weeks out of the year. 105 families plus another 10, maybe 12 or 15, even 15 private lessons. So you're looking at thousands and thousands of dogs at the end of 37 years.
Yeah.
And back years ago, I was embarrassed to say that number because it made me sound like I was making it up. It made me sound like I was oh I trained 30,000 dogs. Well, if you think about it,
It's real.
maybe after
Yeah.
37 years, it's up there. It's up there
Yeah.
near 30. And so oh my goodness, oh my goodness, I'm lucky enough to have that kind of base, that kind of base. Very few dogs are gonna surprise me. They still get surprised. There's things that dogs do all the time that I'm like, oh my god, I've never seen that before.
I was wondering where you might identify misunderstandings about how people when people are trying to train a dog. And they're well intentioned, but do you see certain patterns or things that stand out to you?
I do. Um, the biggest thing, I'm back with the business, back with positive experience. A lot of my business was based on biting dogs. A lot of it. I was
Like,
that guy. You want to make the dog sit, you go anywhere. The dog bit somebody, the dog did something naughty. They come, and these gorgeous, caring, fantastic human beings try to justify it. He's protecting the house. He's guarding the house. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's guarding himself.
mhm.
Not guarding your home. He tries to bite the little Girl Scout selling cookies he's not protecting you. He's protecting himself. He thinks that Girl Scout's a threat to him, and
Mhm.
that was the biggest um, misunderstanding that a lot of people had, that they almost tolerate certain things until it's too late.
Mhm.
And, in hindsight, it's 2020. I'm I'm that way with my truck. I wait till the brakes aren't stopping, then I take it into the shop, and they're like, John, you didn't hear this, you didn't feel this. No, 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 I did it. I was thinking it was dirt. I was thinking it was mud. Same thing with a lot of dog problems, that they almost tolerate it until they can't, and that's what I used to get a lot of, an awful lot of. Um, that loving, caring, insanely fantastic human beings. I would tell everyone. I lived the life of irony. That the only reason why anyone would come to me, give me good money, good time, good trust, good effort, was because they love their dogs.
Mhm.
And a big part of my job sometimes was just say, stop. He's he's naughty.
Yeah.
And that's ironic.
Mhm.
But I took it as part of my job. So a lot of people tend to tend to overthink it.
Mhm. Mhm.
The nice thing about dogs is that they're basic. They're basic animals.
Mhm.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. They live in the moment, uh, and everything they do has a reason. They don't do
Mhm.
anything out of spite. They don't do anything. There's no really like deep thought going on.
Yeah.
It's want my bone? You come near me, I growl at you. You walk away. Look, there it is. All right, case solved. And that's when they go. Well, it was his bone. Oh no, I get it. And that was the biggest. That was the biggest thing I saw over the years of pet training, was that they tend to overanalyze. And if you just say, okay, now I get it. The dog's doing this. How do I try to get him not to do it? And sometimes it's just a matter of getting them tired.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a matter of giving them something else to do.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a matter of just you know, putting down the lawn and saying, no, you're not jumping on grandma, even though
Mhm.
you love her, but you can't jump on grandma. And that was the biggest. That was the biggest thing I saw. That like I said, these beautiful, gorgeous human beings
Yeah.
um, just kind of allowed the animal to do, until it became, oh my gosh, look what he's doing. And that's like the biggest misunderstanding.
And what would you advise people when they're looking to have a dog come into their home and they're out there, they're looking at a shelter or wherever? Are there certain factors that you advise people to keep in mind?
Oh, sure. Um, Try to get the dog that you can handle what it's going to do. And that's a weird way of putting it. But the example there,
Mhm.
years ago, I was tasked with going out to this lady's home. She was well in her 70s, lived in a condo complex. And guess
Mhm.
yourself, a rescue 1.5-year-old lab who had never been on leash. And I'm supposed to fix this dog, yanking her down the stairs and dragging her through the parking lot. And I'm looking, going, oh my gosh, and I'm struggling with ideas because this dog was giving me fits. And I have this lady who, is, really should have a cane. And her daughter came to just see what's going on. And we're in the parking lot, and she came out with a rescue greyhound. And rescue greyhounds don't pull.
Mhm.
They're they're actually trained not to pull from the racetracks.
Okay.
And I'm like, ma'am, do me a favor and give your mom your dog, and please take this lab so I can fix it. And of course she said no, because it was her dog. But that's where, if you get a dog, you have to, and please do rescue these things. I mean, these are living beings, and they deserve a life. Um, but get the animal that you can accept.
Mhm. that you have the time, the energy, the money.
That,
If you're going
you
to have
know,
to
um,
a good amount of what you're saying about making sure that it's good to get a shelter dog, but just make sure you're prepared to do what you need to do. There you go.
absolutely.
Think of
Even even if you get a dog from a Westminster breeding,
that. Hmm.
be prepared to do something about it. Buy a new home. Be be prepared to go over and get a new kitchen. And if you can't get a new kitchen, well, then you got to look for another home.
Hmm.
You have to be very choosy. Same thing with the dog. Same thing with the dog. I was watching that thing fall. Pardon me. Um, Same thing with the dog. Um, that get the dog that you can handle,
Hmm.
and make it into your own, as opposed to expecting that dog to be what you want. Right now we have this puppy, this Gracious Mountain puppy. She's fantastic. We bred the parents. We know
Hmm.
where she came from. We know everything about her.
Yeah.
And we're prepared. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. A couple months, when we walk down the street, she's going to pull. We got to handle it. She's going to be 100 pounds, 110 pounds. We're going to handle it. We're going to teach her. We're going to train her. We're going to put the time in on it. She's not. She isn't perfect. She's a nice puppy. She's fantastic. She's lovely. She's a nice pet. But but we're expecting to do work with her.
Yeah.
And that's where, no matter what dog you get, from wherever you get it, try to think about, can I handle its problems? Whatever the problem might be. You almost make it up. Can I handle his pulling? Can I handle his barking? Can I handle this? And if you can, there it is. There it is. Now get that dog and turn it into the pet that you want.
Hmm.
Just like without house versus living being, but just like your house, you're going to make it into the house that you want, the home that you want. You buy your house, you turn it into a home. You get a dog, you turn it into your pet.
Hmm.
And that's where, if you can't handle the house turning into a home, you shouldn't buy the house. Same thing with the dog. You shouldn't get the dog if you can't handle making it into your pet. And that's that 7-year-old lady with this 1.5 out of control lab living in a townhouse.
Hmm.
Really, unfortunately, of course, I didn't say that to her. I'm like, but
What happened? Did she keep the dog, or did she
uh,
have to bring it back?
me and the daughter and I had a decent conversation in the parking lot, and I think I convinced her into maybe seeing if there's another family member who can get the dog, if I remember right.
Mhm.
It wasn't going to the shelter. The lady was adamant about that, and that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it was just going to hurt the lady. It was going to destroy her. And he was doing it out of love. He was doing it out of happy. There wasn't a mean bone in that dog's body, but it was a misfit.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I think I talked the daughter into finding another family member,
Oh,
maybe with
okay.
a backyard,
Yeah.
maybe a few years younger than 70. Okay, to go handle the dog.
Okay. So that
Uh,
sort of maybe had a happy ending, but I'm sure you've seen ones that haven't because people didn't think ahead that way.
all,
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, I was that guy. I was my job.
Hmm.
My job. Um, you have a toddler. Dog's been edgy all his life. He's attacking the toddler. He sent the toddler to the hospital on one occasion, maybe two occasions sometimes. What do you do? What do you do? And it's like, can you handle the dog's problem?
Right. Right.
There's a toddler involved. There's a toddler's face involved, and that's where, unfortunately, I became that guy that
Mhm.
has to go. And of course the baby. You're not getting rid of a toddler. I would hope. I would hope. And so, unfortunately, out of the two of them, the recommendation there was the dog goes,
Yeah.
and it's up to now the human on how does the dog go, or where does the dog go. And sometimes I would make the recommendation for the final act, take him to the vet and say goodbye to him. And then other times it was, see if you can place him, get him out of that house, depending on what I heard,
Mhm.
depending on what I saw. But there were tons. Oh my gosh, tons of times I'd be tasked with, dogs attacking grandma. Okay, well, next time grandma comes over, maybe the dog's in, the back bedroom. No, grandma is living with us now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. Oh gosh, oh
Yeah.
gosh. Now I have to deal with, can the environment withstand? Okay, both adults work. They're running around like lunatics. Grandma's alone with this dog all day. The dog's going to eat her up. The dog's going to hurt her. One of them has to go because grandma can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
The joke always was, anytime I dealt with a dog biting the man of the family, I'd laugh. I'd laugh. I'm like, let's train this dog. And I am I am old school. I'm old. I was born in the '60s, and I was raised by women. Uh, but the guy gets bit once or twice, handle it. Fix your dog, buddy. Okay, make your dog your pet. The lady's getting bit. Think about it. Think about it. I'm not sure it's a good idea. You are going to get bit once or twice more before we fix it. Kids getting bit, it's done. It's over. This is now the environment,
Yeah.
and that's what I dealt with an awful lot. That I had to make the horrible recommendation, and it's horrible. It's terrible.
I'm sure. Yeah.
You're actually ruining a relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I've had grown men cry.
I'm sure.
They've had the dog for 6 years. They got married 3 years ago, and they had a baby, and now the dog's going after the baby.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you got to get rid of your dog.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fix that safe enough and quick enough with that baby's face involved. And it was horrible. It was horrible. But then the next night you had puppy class, and you got to play with 12 puppies. And they're bouncing around, and you're laying on the floor, and they're jumping on you. And it kind of made up for it.
Right.
There were times.
Yeah.
There were times that it just wasn't worth it,
Yeah.
and it didn't work. It wouldn't work. For lack of a better way.
Yeah, and we had a couple comments about that. One was it's the shelter's responsibility to be sure a dog is adopted into an appropriate home. So that comes into play too, I guess. Although situations change. But.
Yes, but the problem with shelters and even fosters is that it's a fake environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a false environment,
Mm-hmm.
and that some dogs will act certain ways in certain areas. And the nicest dog, I'm kind of exaggerating, but the nicest dog out there in the shelter, the nicest dog in a foster home, he gets put in your home, and 3 weeks later he's acting naughty. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, shouldn't the shelter have told me this? They never saw it.
Mm-hmm.
They never saw it because the fake environment didn't allow it to come out. So there's a thing with rescue dogs. The thing with the puppy is that you kind of see things happen as the dog's progressing.
Okay.
You have months or years of seeing it. You get a rescue dog. The dog's already been established.
Mm-hmm.
Its behavior's been established, but it lived with this loving, fantastic family as a foster dog, but it was a fake environment. Mm-hmm. So it was on its best behavior. Mm-hmm. Ben Franklin said, fish and guests, they all stink after 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Because once the guest becomes comfortable,
right,
he's going to leave the toilet seat up. He's going to put his socks in the sink. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the dog. You have like a 2 to 4 week honeymoon period. Mm-hmm. A lot of times that the dog's on his best behavior. You even see full-grown dogs who are not housebroken don't pee in the house for 2 weeks. And then once they become comfortable, that's when they start going back to their old behaviors. Okay. And that's where the people go, well, the shelter should have told me, the foster should have told me he's not housebroken. Well, they never saw it.
Yeah.
Because that fake environment, and so that's where the honeymoon period comes in. And you see it all the time. All the time that it's, the third week. They come in, I rescued this dog 3 weeks ago and he's doing this. Yeah, no kidding, 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. You worry about the dog that did it the first day. I had this dog for 1 day and he tried to bite my kid. Okay, that's a deep behavior. Mm-hmm. That's deep. Whereas, 4 weeks into it, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks into it, it's a weaker and weaker behavior as it goes further and further.
So you feel like that means maybe it's going to be easier to deal with or to
Absolutely.
shift.
Well, absolutely. The dog, the second chance dog that acts up on the third month is so much easier to handle than the second chance dog that acts up on the third hour. Okay. Just like the guest that comes in your house and takes off his socks and throws it in the sink
Right.
and starts, leaving food all over the floor. That's a bad guest.
Yeah.
But when he's there for 2 weeks, and no kidding. He isn't that awful, kind of thinking. And that's where a lot of people would always say, these people lied to me. They should have told me. Well, they never saw it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The dog wasn't established enough. Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's very helpful, I'm sure, to a lot of people. And I did want to mention you have a picture there in your background of your the dogs that you work with more now, right? You kind of shifted. So you just kind of retired from owning positive experience for a long time. They have new great owners to know you've worked with directly. Tell us a little bit about your new venture, or I don't know how long Buco Dogs has been around, but if you could tell us a little bit about Buco Dogs.
Thank you. That's our charity. It's a 501(c)(3). We're trying to train or help pay for, with other trainers, diabetic alert dogs, because once again, it takes a couple of years maybe to get one dog. Like Truvia, she spent a year with us. She was donated for this fantastic, amazing breeder, and she was donated to us. And after a year, it was just obvious. So we spent an entire year. We don't mind it. We don't mind it. It's food, vet bills. But oh well. A lot of trainers don't have the wherewithal. So by the time a diabetic alert dog is fully trained, you're looking at $40,000 or $50,000 of a cost. And who has that money? I mean, you can't take out a loan. You can't take out a mortgage on a dog. So Buco Dogs is designed to help defray the cost of another trainer training a dog, because sometimes, they go through 2 or 3 dogs. Another part of Buco Dogs is to train the diabetic alert dog ourselves. This way, we absorb the cost, and now we can go over and assign the dog to someone, someone who needs that dog. And right now, we're focusing on type 1 diabetics because they're the easier, believe it or not, of the dogs, of the people to get the dog involved with, because their bodies react differently than a type 2 a lot of times, even though it's the same ailment. Type 1, the pancreas is dead, whereas type 2, the pancreas isn't working as well as it should. And that's where we're focused on type 1. I really want to focus on children. I really want to focus on kids that have absolutely no self-awareness. So you're looking at a 4 or 5 year old kid. Erin's been diabetic since she was 5 years old. And a 5-year-old kid has no self-awareness of their bodies. So they're going to go run around and they're going to crash. I wouldn't mind a dog being around to at least help out. Now you're asking parents who have a 5-year-old kid to go over and spend $40,000 or $50,000.
Yeah.
I mean, kids are expensive to begin with. Now let's go over and get the 40, 50. And so that's where Buco Dogs comes in as far as the payment goes, and we're trying to train diabetic alert dogs, and it takes a couple to get one, and it takes a long time to get one, and that's why someone says this dog is $50,000. Well, ask how many dogs they've trained this year, and they say, well, one. Well, they're good. They say, well, this is the 50th dog. Well, really? Come on, now. At least in my opinion, that may not be appropriate. But Buco Dogs is designed for that, and we're pretty proud of the couple of dogs that we have placed. We were lucky enough to get a CNI dog that just wasn't working out for them. and she's amazing.
Oh, okay. And maybe
She's
describe a little bit like what does it look like when they're doing their job? What's
it depends. It depends. This one dog that we placed, a young man, uh, once again, without being sexist, but us guys like to sleep. And when we sleep, we tend not to wake up a whole bunch. And so he was young, um, and he'd go to sleep, and all his senses would go off, and he'd sleep right through it.
oh, wow.
So his parents would have to wake up and help him out, and it kind of hindered the things he wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
as a young man. And so we trained this one dog for him to rake him, just rake, jump up in the bed.
Huh?
There's no way you're sleeping through this thing. It just isn't happening. So she was trained to rake. Brandon, a little corgi we have that's trained for my wife, she's designed to lay on Erin's face and roll.
Oh,
So, so she jumps up and she starts rolling. And so there's no way you're sleeping through that. So it depends. Depends. There's some dogs. We haven't done it yet, but people with young children, there's a leather thing. It's called a brinzel
okay.
that the parent will hang off their belt,
Huh?
and the dog senses the 5, 6, 7 year old kid going into a low sugar moment, will run to the parent and yank on the brinzel.
Oh, okay.
And at night, that they'll put the brinzel on a doorknob
Mm-hmm.
of their bedroom with bells attached to it. So now the dog wakes up in the middle of the night, senses the child going into crisis moment, runs over and starts ringing the bell.
Oh, wow.
It depends on what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing you want is a dog raking a 5 year old kid,
Mm-hmm.
but a 20-something-year-old young man rake them. And that's why it depends on the actual thing you're looking for. You
Okay.
know, you don't want barking, at least my opinion. You don't want any of that kind of stuff because a service dog is supposed to be invisible. And
Okay.
so you go into a restaurant or a public venue or an office,
Mm-hmm.
the starts dropping, the dog starts barking, he isn't invisible anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure that's appropriate maybe to get a barking um, 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 dog. But if you get a dog that paws you, bumps you, noses you, maybe grabs your brinzel,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
And you started with training these dogs for your wife, and then it just unfolded from there.
It actually started by accident. We had a dog, Cloujo, a Gracious Mountain dog, nicest dog in the world. Technically, never needed any training. He never did anything wrong. He was just a nice dog. And we had Skeety, the dog in the picture behind me.
Oh, okay.
That's Skeet. And Skeet, she was a nice dog, but he was a bit of a boss, and he bossed Cloujo around. So Skeet would lay on the upstairs landing. Cloujo would always be on the bottom. And Skeety kind of didn't allow Cloujo a lot of access to the upstairs. And we allowed it because they got that kind of thinking that nothing bad was happening, but
Mm-hmm.
Cloujo just would not come the stairs at night. And this one night, all of a sudden, next thing you know, you hear a commotion, and there's Cloujo. He's pawing and he's whining and he's banging the door. So Erin gets up. Of course, I don't. I'm a guy, so I'm obviously. She gets up. There's Cloujo. Okay, he's in distress. Maybe he has to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Takes him out. Lets him out in the backyard. Being that she's up, she takes her blood sugar at 65. Thank goodness he had to go to the bathroom. A couple of nights later, a week later, whatever, same thing. He's at the door, pouncing on the door, whining and everything. Takes him out. Maybe has diarrhea again. Maybe it's the same thing. She checks his sugar, 68. And now she's like, wait a minute, this is a nice coincidence.
Uh-huh.
And Cloujo turned into what's called a natural alerter. He just did it on his own.
What are they picking up? Excuse me.
A lot of people get weird on this. I get amazingly weird on this, and a lot of trainers really don't appreciate my thinking. But the dogs are trained. A dog being trained is trained on some kind of scent coming from the human, saliva, sweat, sometimes blood. We actually train on saliva. But I'm convinced, it's just the way I've been trained. I'm convinced that it's everything happening in the body. The heart changes, the heartbeat changes, the body goes into a certain distress mechanism, actions. A lot of diabetics wind up getting cold hands, numb hands. They start getting jittery. There's things happening. There's a lot of electricity, and the dog being intuitive, the dog just being part of that family.
Mm-hmm.
The common is mommy's heart sounds like this, mommy's blood smells like this.
Yeah.
And even though it's behind a closed door in an upstairs bedroom and the dog's laying on the couch, they feel it.
It's
They
incredible.
actually
Yeah.
smell it, sense it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens, I think, is that they actually feel the difference in the environment, and they panic because being pack animals, they're supposed to worry about the pack.
Yeah.
And when there's distress in the pack, that's when they take action. It's just like a dog going after somebody coming on your property.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of dogs. My dog, you can come on my property tomorrow. Right now, you come on my property, and I guarantee you nothing's going to happen to you. Guarantee it. You might get a little slobber. You might get a little mud because Ard salivates and he has mud on his saliva. You come and cause distress in the environment, yell and scream and holler.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is doing something. I don't know what it might be. They're going to bark, maybe get in the way. They're going to see the distress. They're going to react. And that's what I'm convinced that diabetic alert dogs do, that they feel the distress
Mm-hmm.
that the human doesn't even realize
Yeah.
they're going in. And that's where Claudio was this natural. And so Aaron started writing about it. And then his son, Red Bull, took over from him.
Huh.
And Red Bull was a natural. And zero training.
That's amazing.
And so he took over from Claudio. And so everyone started writing about it. And next thing you know, you find out there's such a thing called diabetic alert dogs. I had no idea that they existed.
Mm-hmm.
No idea. And that's when we started getting involved. Red Bull started getting old. That's when we started getting involved with Grandin. And that's when we invented Gluco Dogs, because we found out that these things are priceless.
Yeah.
And that help.
Yeah, and I have the Gluco Dogs website up on the screen.
Thank you.
People are interested, they can go there. They can reach out to you, or what? If they're interested in getting a diabetic alert dog, would they contact you through there? Or
Sure. We have a couple of trainers that we deal with in other parts of the country.
okay.
We have a small network because we're choosy.
Mm-hmm.
We're amazingly choosy, actually.
Yeah.
And I think in a business like this, I think you have to be choosy.
Right. Yeah.
And so depending on where they are, depending on what they need, depending if there's availability, there's even we can help with certain self trainings. A lot of people have young enough dog, nice enough dog, and everything. You can at least try to train your own dog.
Mm-hmm.
Help with that and everything. It's at least worth a try.
Yeah.
It's your pet. You're not really spending extra money on it. Maybe extra money, maybe some advice. And if it works next year, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
If it didn't, at least you didn't waste $50,000.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole idea of it.
And do you take donations as well?
Yeah, we do. We're a private charity. It's just me and my wife. We take no salary, zero salary. Matter of fact, we wind up spending more on our charity than anything. We actually personally spend our own money on it, because why not? Why not? Life's been good to us. The world's been good to us. So you pay it backwards, maybe if you can pay it forwards, why not? But right now we're paying it backwards because life has been amazingly gracious to us, and why not?
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of which, you're kind of in a new phase. You're moving from New Jersey to a little north.
Yeah, Cape Cod.
Mm-hmm.
Cape Cod. We're in the process, which is an amazing process because we've been in this house for over 22 years, and running a business and having a home. The place needs a little love, and we're trying to empty out 22 years worth of. I'll get to it tomorrow's, and that's coming. And
will you be training there in
I'll be I'll be I'll actually be involved with Gluco Dogs.
Okay.
I'm 58 years old. Without sounding horrible, I'm done. I worked hard. I had my 20-year career in law enforcement, 5 years in the military, and 27 owning a business.
Yeah.
And so that's 47 years worth of career in a 58-year-old body.
Yeah.
That's a lot, And so it's time to slow down. I want to train one dog a year, one dog at a time, and I'll train that diabetic alert dog at the beach, in Chatham, on the boat. just make it a well-rounded animal. So if it doesn't succeed, at least someone can get an amazingly well-rounded pet out of the deal. But it's only going to be 1 year. I'm not doing 105 families a week. We're not having employees. We're not having 13,000 square feet anymore. That
it sounds like it's time for that book. So time to write that.
I'm working on that. There for a while, I was going down to the library over on 42nd Street in Manhattan. Amazing library.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's beautiful. And I get the old books on all types of animal behavior, and they take me to a room and allow me to go through the books, and I'd scan and take pictures of things. You couldn't take them home. You couldn't leave the building with them because they were so old. Right. They gave you a reading room, and I have a couple of binders full of notes and full of ideas. And so once I settle down, once we get out of here and get the house up there running, which is its own thing, with 7 dogs, 3 horses, cat, a bunch of chickens. We have a lot.
Yeah.
I am going to write the book. I'm going to write something.
Yeah.
And I play with what I want, what I'm thinking. But I'm thinking about going and delving into the old timers. Thorndike, Miller, Fox, those guys that a lot of people really don't appreciate. A lot of people don't even know. And those are the people that I really gravitate to. Okay. I mean, even goes far back as 460 BC. A guy named Xenophon, a Greek, wrote a dog training book on hunting dogs, and he wrote a horse training book. I mean, in 460 BC.
Wow.
And that's what I want to spend more time delving in, and that's where my book, if and when the day comes, I actually have it printed. Most likely, I'll go for that. Maybe just a book on just stupid stories.
They're so interesting, and we really appreciate you sharing them with us tonight. I am sorry for the little bit of a connection issue, but this has been very helpful for a lot of people and very interesting. And I'm sure people will want to read that book. So you should write that book, it sounds like. And thank you so much for being here.
It was fun.
Yeah, and absolutely. And if you want to reach out to John with Gluco Dogs, please go there to www.glucodogs.org. That's up on the screen. It's been up there. And if you need anything from me, animal communication, etc., please go to www.intuitivetouchanimalcare.com. And thank you so much, John, again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Walking down the street, 1, 2, 3. I go walking down the street. Look at me. Come on, all you doggies, won't you walk with me? I'm the puppet dog. I go walking down the street. Yes, I do. I go walking down the street. How about you? My mama has a puppet toy that we can shoot. I'm the puppet dog. I'm the puppet dog. I'm the puppet dog. I'm the lassiest, sassiest dog. puppet, puppet, puppet dog. I'm the puppet, 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 puppet dog. I'm the lassiest, sassiest dog around. I'm the scrappiest, happiest dog in town. Take a walk with me. I'm the puppet, 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 puppet dog. I'm the puppet, 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 puppet dog. I'm the puppet, 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 puppet dog. I'm the puppet, puppet, puppet.